which is
Yeah.
lovely.
I think weight nature of it, isn't it?
About 2.8. We may have some more people joining us, but I think we'll make a start, otherwise it runs on at the other end. So Josh was going to be opening our meeting today with karakia, but he's decided to go on a trip in an ambulance today instead, just for a bit of fun. So we're thinking of Joshy today, but so I'll just start with a karakia. This was gifted to us by Te Marama Apiata, who worked with us as a Māori advisor, so I'll explain it in a moment. Whakarongo, 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 ki ngā ha'i mona mano e karanga nai, tui, tui, tuia. Tuia ki ronga, tuia ki raro, tuia ki waho, tuia ki roto. Tuia tiheri ngā tangata katoa, tihei uri uri, tihei nako nako, tihei Māori ora. And that is, it basically, the literal translation is listen, listen, listen to the many voices that are calling. Sow, bind, weave. Bind from above, bind from below, bind from without, and bind to self. Weave the bonds of the people. Carry our descendants, let them adorn us. That's the breath of life. And so that karakia relates really closely to our Māori name, which is ha'i mano. And ha'i mano is about, is basically the sense of really listening, really intently, for the purposes of actually hearing what's being said. It's that essence of really intentional listening. And that's sort of at the core of who we are and our reason for being, really, which we'll explore a bit more this morning. So today is really about just taking the time and taking stock at the start of this year to really do some listening. But part of listening, we think, is understanding the context, the whakapapa of where we've come from. And we're very privileged to have a historical member of the Burwood Academy here with us today, the lovely Bernadette, who was associated with the Academy right from the the start, when the Burwood Academy of Independent Living was a subgroup of the New Zealand Spinal Trust. We've since separated and gone our different ways, but we're very good friends.
We're very good friends.
And so Bernadette's just going to give us a bit of a rundown, a bit of a history of where we've come from for those of you who may not know, and then I'll get on to the next stage. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, and thank you for the invitation. Now, there are some familiar faces here, so if you have any other recollections about those early days, please chip in, because I'm just coming with what I remember at the time. So I have been privileged to have been involved with the Burwood Academy, involved in research projects, and I've always felt very much part of this wonderful group, so I've always enjoyed it. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the beginnings. So the New Zealand Spinal Trust had been established by the late Professor Alan Clark in 1994, and in 2001 the Alan Bean Centre, which was a major project of his, opened in 2001, and I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Alan Bean Centre, but in the middle was the library, and then off the library was all the different offices and programmes. So Prof was very busy. He established the Alan Bean Centre. Andrew came and joined the team, and he helped to set up the VOC rehab programme, which was called the Kaleidoscope. But Prof was another major publication would have been initiative was the Back on Track handbook, which was developed and produced by Julian. But Prof always wanted to have a research element to the work of the New Zealand Spinal Trust, and he did see it as, I think at that stage it was kind of joined at the hip, but as you've said, it's eventuated to, it became its own entity. But Prof liked the independent living paradigm, which was proposed by Gerben de Jong, and Gerben de Jong and Alan Clark became very close friends. And so when Alan was thinking about a research centre or a research entity, what was going to be at the forefront was the recovery process and the focus on rehabilitation as education, not medical, and giving the control to the person that's going through the recovery phase. I think Prof said something, he had a lovely phrase where the person that was in recovery or going through rehab was the director, and everyone else was staff. So staff played a supporting role, they weren't in control. And I thought that was quite a nice analogy. So one of the first things that happened was a steering group, sorry I'll just go back, and that was initiated by Julian. And so a steering group was established, and then there was a lot of discussion about what this research entity was going to be called. So Alan and Julian had many discussions on this matter. I don't know if you were involved, Andrew. No. So one of the first names was the Buried Research Academy with the acronym BAR. And Julian says it took a lot of, Prof took a lot of convincing to realise that wasn't a good look. So there was another.
Quite supportive, huh?
So the next name was the Buried Academy of Research Bar, which he said was also quite pertinent because it reflected a number of discussions they had over glasses of wine. But they finally decided they would settle on the Buried Academy of Independent Living because it was the independent living model that Prof was very keen to pursue. So that's kind of, I don't know, you know, I mean, it is quite interesting how these names come about. I do think that the Buried Academy Trust probably really is a good name in terms of summing up, you know, what you are wanting to achieve or do.
Everyone thought that Bale was related to the justice system.
Well,
that's why we changed it
Yeah,
to
Julian
Buried
didn't
Academy
like it.
Trust.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never liked Bale. He was that had not a very nice connotation. So Bale was born, and Julian Verkijk was our first ever manager. He was not never a researcher, and he did feel perhaps he shouldn't have been given the role as manager. But he was coming from, his background is in industrial design, but he was coming from the perspective that, and along with Prof, that the people, the end users, the people with disabilities should have a big part to play, and actually not be cannon fodder, as Alan Clark referred to. I mean, he didn't call him that. He said that's always the perspective that's given in the research community. So, and one of the things that happened, I think the year that Julian became the manager, was there was an academic framework workshop. It was a full day workshop. I was presenting. I remember Anne Sinnott was there. We had Richard Seegert, is he from
University of Otago.
Target, yeah. And what we did was presenting our work along the lines of the research matrix. So this is, you will have seen this before, yeah? So Julian had to come up with that kind of design. So mine was about knowledge. I think Anne did probably relationships, but it was a really good workshop in terms of probably just coming up with future strategies, deciding where we wanted to go in terms of research and how we were going to do it and the key areas. So one of the things I was going to say was that Julian felt that Bale was kind of ahead of the curve in some ways when it comes to co-design, because there was always that element of involving the end users, the people with the lived experience, and in ensuring that, you know, they have a huge part to play. He also, one of the things he's asked me to mention is that he feels that Buried Academy has had a huge impact, not just in New Zealand and Australia, but abroad as well. And, you know, you are continuing to evolve and progress, and that Alan would be very proud of where you are all sitting today. One of the things that I was going to mention was, and I won't be able to stay for your brainstorming session, to go to another meeting, but one of the things that I was talking to Anne Sinnott yesterday, we were talking about building capacity. So we've been very lucky to have people like Johnny Burke and Richard Smale, Claire Freeman, and others coming through with the credentials, the research credentials, but also the lived experience, and that's very vital. We continue to have those people going through Buried.
Thanks, Benedict.
So that's me.
Yeah, so it's of a snapshot of where we've come from, because that's really informed the way that we're heading. Rebecca, do you want to just lead
Sorry,
us in?
Michelle,
Oh, yes.
Can I just mention that I'm sitting next to the inaugural chairman?
Oh, thank you, Ted. This is Ted Arnold, for those that don't know.
Professor Arnold, for those that don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a PowerPoint because I've been given a whole 3 minutes. So I'm Rebecca Kearns, I'm the new General Manager here, hopefully leading us into a bright future, having come from a bright past. And that's probably the biggest thing I want to look at is from today is the whole saying, which I think Michelle's going to talk about more, is that looking backwards and moving forwards. That concept of looking at where we've come from and the importance of where we've come from, but also looking as to where we're heading. And I'm hoping that through the brainstorming we'll do soon, and wonderfully facilitated by this expert next to me, we can get some ideas, and I in particular can get some guidance and some ideas and understanding from yourselves. So going back to those core things of why the Burwood Academy is here, and those things around that purpose of consumer-centric, with and for, that we're research excellence, that we are delivering research excellence, that we are reducing the gap between academic research and the actual action that's happening at the end. So making sure that, because sometimes I'm passionate about research, and research can take a long time to go from that research project to a journal article that might sit on a shelf and be dusty. So I'm just wondering if she's going to
No.
So, and then we want to make sure we're all doing this all within a culturally safe environment for Māori and our partnerships that we're involved in. So I'm very keen to hear around where you think we should be going. What is important as researchers, clinicians, but particularly consumers? What is of interest? What is important to you? We are about improving the lives of people with disabilities or long-term health issues. We need to be looking at how we enable society and what can we do from a research perspective that helps do that, that gives the evidence to push for that. How do we support and develop researchers, those with lived experience and those working within research, to understand that they need to be talking to and listening and hearing from those with a lived experience. So I'm very keen. It feels like a very short time, but it is about 5 months now that I've been in this role. There is still a lot for me to learn and a lot for me to hear and listen. So I love the saying of that concept of actively listening, and that's what I'm keen to be doing.
Just to say that we'll gather people's thoughts today, but we'll also synthesise what we've heard today and then put it out again for broader. So if you know of people that haven't been able to make it today and they still want to contribute, then we'll probably have a survey or something that people can add to. It's very much just a start in our ongoing conversation. So today I'm really going to, I'm trying out the stencil yellow for the first time. I'm hoping it works. Oh no. I think what's happened is I've lost internet access. Is that right? Let's try. See if it works. Just a minute.
Time for a biscuit.
Yes. Yeah.
Have a snack, have a little jelly frog.
Or
a piece of fruit. There is one piece of fruit.
I think it's because I had to. Yeah, say hello to the people next to you. You'll find all sorts of things out about them. You're going to talk to them in a minute.
Similar lack of music though. I mean,
Where are you eating?
So we're on Bright Street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we.
Oh, yes, okay.
So, because it
Right, fortunately, I thought to export a PDF. So we'll use the PDF. So I shall scroll up. So at the moment, this is the sort of the research mandate that we have got from people with lived experience that we've chatted with. So this was some years ago. Johnny Burke led this process, and through a process of listening, these were the sort of 4 areas that people who experience research said they wanted us to focus our research on. And so these have been like the guiding pillars, I guess, that we've thought about how can we do research that matters to people who experience disability. What I want to do is just visually take you on a quick journey of how we kind of think about research and how we plan that. You do not need to read all of the details. It's more a sort of pictorial way of reinforcing the main points that I'm trying to say. So essentially what happens is we'll have something like we're thinking about staying healthy or engaging rehabilitation, and there's a series of projects that together form a thread, all right? I'm not illustrating every project we've ever done in Burwood Academy or got going, but just to give you a picture. So historically, Burwood Academy was involved in the World Health Organization ICF Corset for spinal cord injury. There was also heaps of people doing masters and PhD students in spinal cord studies in spinal cord injury, and together that informed both the development of the New Zealand Spinal Cord Action Plan, that was a nationwide action plan, but also then we evaluated that action plan. And we were also doing some study about how people with spinal cord injury use cannabis to manage pain. But from that action plan, the 2 key things that came out, the evaluation was that pain management services were not meeting people's needs. That was a key concern for people living with spinal cord injury. The other thing was there was a whole objective that hadn't been addressed at all as a result of the action plan, and that was that there was a need for a nationwide sustainably funded peer support service, and there'd been no movement on it at all over the period of the action plan, despite New Zealand Spinal Trust and Spinal Support New Zealand trying very hard. In terms of pain management, what we've done is we're trying to develop a bit of a thread that's going to go that way. So we've done some exploratory work, sort of sitting down with people who experience pain to say, what's helped you? So we try very much to have a strength-based approach rather than tell us what the problem is. We're saying, what have you found in your experience using your expertise that's been helpful for you? We listen to that was through focus groups, and then using what we've heard from those participants, we are then going to look at potentially this is an advertisement as well, potentially a HRC activation grant to pull together some sort of intervention, pilot, feasibility option that we can then implement alongside clinicians, alongside people who experience spinal cord injury to see if we can improve that service. So it's research in the context of an identified need, but aiming to change something. We're quite aspirational. In terms of pain, the peer support, we were aspirational and there was an outcome. I think it would be fair to say. We developed a cunning plan where we called it a cunning plan, and I've been at conferences presenting it as such. And we basically tried to come up with a process of research where we could journey with New Zealand Spinal Trust and Spinal Support New Zealand to provide the evidence that supported them in their advocacy of a nationwide service. And it's really absolutely fantastic to say last year a proof of concept was funded by ACC to provide that service. So, we're pretty excited about that. But there's more work to do. How do we make it relevant, peer support services relevant for Māori? And there's some work that's going on around how do we measure outcomes that are relevant for Māori? What does quality of life look like if we're going to be be starting to think about outcomes that really matter. So there's some other work in that space. I'm talking quite fast because I want to actually hear you, but this is just to give you a bit of a summary overview. I'm not going to go in such great detail with all of them. So optimising participation, there's a sort of that area around is mainly we're working, I picked this one because we're collaborating with the University of Otago with this. So we're subcontracted to University of Otago team. I'm sort of one of the investigators, but lots of our staff are involved, and we're really trying to work out how to support people who've experienced a stroke to get back to work, to be given the right supports to get them back to work. Particularly, we've got younger people who are experiencing stroke. Māori are even younger in average experiencing stroke, and so are even more experiencing inequities in relation to return to work. And so we've built on the knowledge that's been gained through Kaleidoscope and the New Zealand Spinal Trust to say, why does early intervention seem to have made a big difference? And how could we apply this? And so we've had a series of HRC MSD grants, but we've also got some activation grants with the whole idea of getting towards HRC Health Service Delivery Grant, probably in collaboration with Stroke Foundation New Zealand, to look at what it would look like to put early intervention around vocational rehab into stroke services across New Zealand. Alongside that, we've been looking at navigational support, because what came out of all of our interviews was no one knows the process. No one can tell me what to do or where to go. And my biggest challenge living with the impacts of stroke is poor navigation of health services. So we're also thinking about that at the same time. So one sort of feeds to the other. The other one, just down the bottom, is enabling society. So that is quite aspirational, creating an enabling society. But we'll give it a go. So we've done some work around, we started, I involved with did a scoping study basically, talking to people about what helps you to flourish in the context of a long-term health condition or experiencing disability. Once again, that real strengths focused. And one of the things that came out was we interviewed them during lockdown, and people talked about what it was that had changed during lockdown in that initial phase where we were all one big team together and a happy family. What was it that made it easier for them in that period? Disabled people talked about it. It's much easier for me to work, and I feel much more connected than I did. They don't say that now, but that was what they were saying at that time. So what can we learn from that around creating a more enabling society? The other thing is we've got an HRC, I've got an Emerging Researcher grant, which is a 3-year grant to support, or to think about how disabled people, tangata whakaha Māori, and disabled people can be more meaningfully involved in policy development. And from that initial scoping study, we also identified this issue for people living in Canterbury and Westland. Well, that's where the funding came from, but they were sort of saying, for those of us who are living with arthritis, we're not well supported within this current health system. We would love to be able to think about what does support look like and how can we do that. So Susan's leading that project. It's a 3-year project where we're co-designing with people who live with inflammatory arthritic conditions, the whole 100 of them or whatever, to think about what does it look like to be able to get the support that you need. So that's just a bit of a summary of just a few of the threads, but the main point is we're aiming for a impact, right from the word go. Everything's feeding into impact. The other thing I just want to highlight, 2 key points, is that our mandate is people with lived experience. That's PLEX, that's a quick way of saying PLEX. People with lived experience, we want them involved at every level of our organisation, right? This is by and for and with people. So if I colour coded the projects where the projects have been hugely influenced by knowledge that was co-produced by people who experience disability. The yellow ones are all those projects where we've had significant input in terms of the findings, that the knowledge has been created. that's actually outside of our core researchers like Johnny, for instance, who's been involved in all of them. This is actually bringing in other stakeholders outside of our team. And we also have this, this is sort of a tool I use just to sort of talk about this relationship with stakeholders, that if we're doing research and then we're trying to make sure we're making it useful knowledge the whole way through, then those relationships are really important. And so just to highlight, if I colour code in orange, the things we've collaborated with health service provider organisations. So this isn't the individual clinicians, this is actual organisations, and we've done research alongside them. The orange is the ones where that's happened. And if we look at where we've had clinicians involved, individual clinicians, that's the pink. All right. So it's really just to say that it's this integrated way of working, but the aim is to make a difference to these outcomes for people who experience disability. That's all I'm going to say at this stage. So what we really want to do now is hear your thoughts, and that's why we want to just have a discussion. And on your table there's a sheet, which I'm going to borrow one of these ones, sorry, this is just for a moment, you can get one. We just really want you to think about, are there research topics or questions that you think we need to be prioritising? Are there other ideas or issues to be aware of? And are there possible collaboration or partnership opportunities? And then down the bottom is any out-of-the-box ideas. So go free here, absolutely, whatever you feel like. What I want to say is that since this mandate was started, there's been significant shifts in research funding, in the Health and Disability Service, and the way that, I wrote a list of things, so I'm just going to go to it to check. Health and Disability System Transformation, whānau ora, enabling good lives, increased use of partnership approaches. There's a real emphasis on building capacity within the disability, Māori and Pacific sectors. There's a real huge focus on equity, which I haven't really touched on today, but we've been really working hard to try and improve our mahi in that area. There's actually some really significant funding incentives for clinicians who want to do research and clinical roles. So HRC's got a whole sort of career development pathway. We're really happy to chat with any clinicians because that's something we can support with. But also we're in the midst of COVID still. It's impacting on resourcing. It's impacting on how people are functioning and feeling, and we're all a bit exhausted. And there's climate change as well. But other than that, it's looking quite cheery. And there are resourcing constraints as well. So in the context of this sort of this change, it would be really nice to hear, what do you think we could be prioritising? So have a conversation, and you've got like 15 minutes maybe, so go for it. Just chat amongst yourselves, write anything, capture any thought down, please.
You can give a right and my right
Would you like me here or somewhere else? Thank you, team. So, what just came up for you at that? In my area, which is primarily stroke, I think there's more brains, more variety. Because I'll push you, because I want you. This is
I'm sorry.
what are we going to do? I see where you've come from.
For me, it's
One of the things that the client group that I work with is access to transition. And I think it's something that is specific to New Zealand because everybody here loves to get in their car, one person, one car. And for a lot of people who have had a stroke or disability, that's no longer an option, and we don't have any, well, we do, but we have limited and not very accessible and not very convenient and yeah, expensive options around physical access to anything, whether that's enable, your society, your participation in anything, your engagement and your rehabilitation, because you can't get to see the psychologist because you can't physically get there. I think that is.
No, it's and I've got personal experience from my daughter who was a wheelchair race. It was we had driving stays which I could get you to anywhere and anything.
Oh, it wasn't.
And it's just another barrier, but it's sometimes, I know with stroke, if you've had a seizure, it's a year. If you've had a single stroke, it's at least a month. Yeah, that's it's everything. Yeah. And how do they get to you? But you've got the ones that come out, come to the duck.
You were being seven. I'm writing depersonalisation. It's a bit the only way here is in a rural big city that saying lip service to the rights.
That sort of disparity in equity administered, because I work more under ACC contracts. We've got ACC, yeah.
It's all very nice on paper.
It was all serious. I wasn't reality.
I was thinking,
One of the action plan, because I work in the school commentary, and the SCI action plan was supposed to sort of address for this particular population between ACC and ministry. But I think when they went back to it, Ministry of Health just said, we don't have that.
but even within the ACC,
When I worked in England a long time ago now, we had a clinic that had volunteer drivers, and the hospital paid them the petrol allowance, and they basically and it was such an amazing, and the relationships that those volunteers built with the people who were coming into clinic for, and it was a hospital-based clinic, so it had everything, orthopedics, surgery, and therapists could access that, and I just think that had so many positive things about it, but there's never been anything like that here. They tried, John, so John has tried to do it for the ambulance, bringing people in to come road, but it seems to
Oh, yeah, well, I guess it's that stage when everything's so
Still like us, you know,
without a necessary.
And if it hadn't been ACC, if the injury had been that transversed my life, she would have been nowadays.
So it's, and it's very.
I'm going to get you because this pen's dying. And I've got a terrible hand, because you're right, but I don't know what to do.
So in the respect of, because we're thinking of stroke and spinal cord and injuries systems through, what are we
Any of the permanent disabled.
so much. I mean, I think that will take into it.
I think it's getting that English involvement. I think some of the, you know, which are super high, another high orientation, really, and often representation of people that are well engaged the whole way through. Yeah, so that, you know, I think.
You don't have the disenfranchised turning up, do you?
No, just the ones that might threaten and they don't feel like they're articulating their needs or the challenge is getting out to them to kind of get an understanding of what really receive some of these various strains and policies.
Having some research around the impact of those on the behaviour
I think there are so many. I wonder who sees themselves in that role already. Some might say, "Oh, I'm a mediator. I help reduce the tension between families."
Yeah, I mean, they're still really limited. I don't know if it's to do with the size of the population, definitely affects a lot of the things, as, you know, a lot of these services the numbers to kind of.
Yeah, it's not economically viable because there's not enough of us.
Yeah, or just sorry, it's gone. But where am I heading with this? I'll give them yeah.
So this is one of the things with the access and how people access a good life physically as well. I mean, there's all the other components of accessing a good life, but I think one of the big barriers is transportation. And we don't have particularly good public transport system because we're so car-based. And how do we
And that's across so many different areas.
yeah, it's not just
Not just one thing.
So what I'm doing is like, don't just have the records up and actually.
Well, I think they're doing very well.
and if you have and that is a huge part of your life. You're not allowed on the bus.
I imagine Build Academy consulting.
Yeah, I've got
Based
lots
on
And then people then end up
lived experience.
I sort of triggered it a little bit, which was good. But still really limited options for return to vacation. Yeah, any sort of vacational options with disposable. Whether it's ACCY or not ACCC funded, and I've had vacational leave still really limited. Yeah. And that's a societal kind of
it's extended from
it's a societal thing too. Around disability and just fear
And that's one of the things that we consider
That's right.
I would and that you don't have the same depth of person to work with, and therefore there's positives with that, but there's also negatives. That it's going to stress a disability, a new disability, will stress the relationship as well as financially. There will be the guilt on both sides of not achieving, and there's a lot of there's a lot to be in that small business community that would be interesting to get a perspective of.
And that comparison of someone trying to return to a workplace that they were in before, so they have that relationship. So there may be it's application, to do that versus someone who's going in cold.
But also that the employer going, when's the end? When does this come right? When does it get that step? We know it doesn't. So I'm both experiencing that as a journey.
Yeah, I mean there is some good practices there is some where they can support this graduated return, so there's still not the complete financial burden by the employer.
They can subsidise the
But
I'm sure you can talk about it forever, and I can hear some lovely conversations going. Is there anything that people would like to share with the whole group, though? Is there something you think, oh, I'd love for other people to, I've had this brilliant idea. Is there anything that people want to share more broadly? Or something that excites you? was hearing some lovely stuff down here. Leslie was on to it. I was taking some notes too because I was worried that Susan wasn't getting it all down.
I want to know, I think one of the priority areas that I want to know about, how do we translate the EGL principles into behaviour, changes in behaviours and actions and culture in organisations to make a real difference for disabled people?
Beautiful, beautiful question. One, just to give you some potentially hope. So for the Emerging Researcher Flourishing Together grant, we're working with about 20 to 30 people to co-produce what the question is we were even going to focus on. They identified housing as the area that they wanted to think about. But then we've tried to come down further to say, what is it that if we're going to look at a particular question, what we focus on? And they really have come up about what are the mechanisms, the levers by which disabled people can actually experience choice and control in housing decisions. So that is kind of what we're going to take forward, and it comes from that Enabling Good Lives principle, but it integrates whānau ora principle as well, because a key component of choice and control is consideration of the whole whānau, not just an individual who experiences disability. So that's what they're actually going to now spend the next 2 years trying to come up with some ideas based on literature and lived experience and survey and all those sorts of things. Yeah.
I was just saying that I facilitated a workshop with disabled people before Christmas, and one of the major things that one of the major issues that they presented at the current time was housing.
Yes.
Housing and employment.
Yes.
And discrimination is different. So that would be great.
Anything else from anyone? Any thoughts or comments? It looks like there's some good comments from this group. Marty.
So, yes, so just a general bail comment. We'll get right to it. COVID's COVID's still around, but I always think it's good, even though I've been off and on. You think that like having having the in-person peer group presentations is great. I think, like it said, like not even sure whether I was maybe one of the ones which did suggest at one stage alternating online and in person. However, I think it's still pretty important going forward. Even as much for a networking thing, is to have those in-person things, because not knocking good old Zoom here, but don't have other people up there since COVID. I'm about over the whole Zoom thing. We're doing virtual meetings and whatnot. So that's just general suggestion.
Thank you, Marty. And it's a beautiful segue into what Julian's going to just introduce us to in a moment, which is we would see on the thing as you go out, what do you value most about the Burwood Research Academy Research Forums? You'll recognise that acronym as BARF. So we might stick with the BAT Research Forums or something, just to get
But there's a chance just to bring everything up.
Yeah. But we really are going to be asking for your thoughts. If you need to go, basically just can you write down your thoughts on the post-it notes and shove them up on the wall as you go, so we can keep that in mind as well, and Marty's suggestions.
Yeah, so Marty was talking about the the value of actually really getting together in person to network as something that you value from these meetings. So we'll be looking at what do you value, what would you like to see the purpose of these forums be, beyond peers as such, moving forward, but we'll come there. Here we go.
Do you want to chat while
Oh,
you're
I
at
can
it, and
just-
then
yeah,
then perhaps we can keep talking.
Obviously,
if
yeah.
people need to go.
We can keep going round and see what's coming up. But we've got here just a list of some of the underpinnings of the gatherings over the years. We've talked about research and we've talked about collaboration, and then this is really, you know, what blossoms from that. What's it gifting people together? So initially it was to support clinical researchers in the hospital with the work they were doing amongst their peers, and to present the projects and to get some feedback and brainstorm some ideas. And then we're also checking the relevance of that line of study with colleagues and peers. Are we on the right track? Is this, you know, topical at the moment? Is this something that's going to have a long-term value? It was also looking at drawing on collective wisdom to refine the design of the projects. People had the opportunity to express in lay terms or to communicate the message in their work, and to discuss research through presentations. So some oral expression practice there. It was certainly important to bridge the gap between research knowledge and clinical practice, and how to do that, to get ideas together on how to do that, and to help close the feedback loop to stakeholders. So, you know, we undertake research, but it's very, very important, of course, to bring it back to the people who were initially involved and the people that are going to take that forward, and provide opportunities to network within the health research community, which is an aspect of what Marty was referring to. So that's some ideas, but we're interested to know what else, if you have any other ideas about what this research forum, as it grows beyond what was peers, can offer you, what you might value, and what you'd like to see. So, as Rochelle said, we have some post-it notes there. Just when you're leaving, if you have another concept or another idea that adds to this, we'd love to hear it, to have you pop it up next to the bits of paper on the doors as you go out.
Or if there's one of these concepts that you think, this is just what I need and I want more of that, stick that up.
Yeah.
So it's just that we know that people sort of drift out at various times, and we don't want to lose those thoughts that you might have, but we can certainly carry on. Is there any other comments generally from what people have been thinking about today?
If we speak to this table, it really reinforces, I think, what we've heard already. We're both talking about how important it is to really bring in the lived experience at every level of every project. It's a bit, bit fractal really, at every project, every, we'll use that word again, every system, and the health system. You're also talking about outside the health system a little bit of the work that you're doing, but in government organisations. So there was a lot of talk of rights and of person-centric work, but their reality was experienced very differently. Would that be right?
Yes, the theory of, for instance, the Health and Disability Code of Rights is wonderful, but reality is very different and not wonderful at all. In fact, it's negligible in some instances. And so I think it's right back to what you were talking about at the start, having the person, the patient, whatever the label is, at the centre of things.
As an expert.
The only thing I'm an expert on is me. I know what I can do, what I can't do, what I want to do, and that needs to be factored into any kind of treatment or program or anything else that I'm part of. No, that needs to be like that for everyone.
you.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, I'm not going to delay proceedings, but it's just been so fantastic to have the opportunity to reflect. It's really good for us as a team to also sort of put things together a little bit in preparation for today. But we're so looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Like I say, we'll put together the ideas, we'll synthesize them, and then we'll send it out to sort of have you got anything additional to add, sort of questions as you, because I know many of us need time to think about it. You're not like I tend to think speak before I think, but other people like to put a little thought in before they open their mouth. So feel free to add yourself, but also forward on to other people, and we'll continue to keep listening for the purposes of really hearing. Julian, would you like to close the meeting? She needs her glasses, otherwise it's a disaster.
We'll just close the meeting. Thank you all very much for coming, and we're wishing you very well for the rest of your day, and may any impediments as you go be removed, and that is what this karakia is all about. Kia whakaria te tapu, kia wātea ai te ara, kia turuki whakataha ai, kia turuki whakataha ai, homie, huie, taihie. Restrictions are moved aside so that pathways are clear to return to your everyday activities. Thank you everybody for coming.
And make sure you've finished your bickies and your fruit, because otherwise it's just going to go in the bin.
Was that to me? Please, you can go now.
Thank you. Thank you.
See ya.
So, is there something that, what do you?
She's okay now, but scary. Like this and a full brace to
Let's just say having that kind of personal experience. I understand how the health system should be run in this situation. I need someone that can take this but she's doing good. She's good. One tough cookie. Nice to meet you. So you don't.
Yeah,
I haven't had that job. Kind of aim for one of those I'd say maybe 2,000 a year or Are you? Did you say you'd be happy to be on the mailing list?
Now my handwriting is not
That's sorry, it just disappeared on me for a minute. Yeah, and you always like to be. And I've already mentioned
Not had.
Is there anything you'd like me to be?
No,
I'm just going to
yeah, I'll just
Yes. And then I'll be around.
Yeah, no, I will.
Look at the CRE. That's good. From working environment that
So nice to see you.
Lovely to see you very much.
And then I've got another focus reader online. Hopefully I'll get to see
Some of the things going forward through this process.
Oh, so good.
Well, I know I made you laugh.
You know, you might remember,
where are we heading?
it's all looking good because I've got.
I'm actually going overseas in June.
Very good.
Oh, brilliant.
Be away then, but
I'm not going to be able to see it.
Start the recording? Oh, yeah, stop the recording. That might be a good idea.